Howdy doody, y'all. How y'all doing? This is episode 102 of Mouth Dancing with your host, Young. Thought I'd give my intro a little bit of a southern twang this week. I don't know why, the mood struck me. I don't talk like that usually. I don't say y'all. I say you guys. And if you have a problem with that, fuck you, because that's just the way I talk. I don't say y'all when I'm talking about, a group of people of various genders and identities or whatever. I don't say y'all. I say you guys. That's just the way I talk, okay? Because that's how I talked growing up, and I'm not going to change that for other people. I don't care. And I'm not trying to be offensive or anything either. That's not my intent. That's just the way I talk. Anyway, that's besides the point. I consider myself a bit of an entrepreneur. If you haven't gleaned that already from listening to my podcast, I always have various ideas for inventions and things like that, like the hamper that loads from the bottom that I talked about recently. And lately I've been thinking about restaurant ideas. Get inspired by watching cooking shows. People like that guy who goes BAM when he puts some spices in the food. Or it's that Guy Fieri with his donkey sauce and his spiky dyed blonde hair. And Julia Child, of course, she's a legend. Anthony Bourdain, R.I.P. He wasn't really a cooking show guy, but he talked about food a lot, and I like him. He was very interesting. There's also Gordon Ramsay. He's always pissed off, and he's always calling people idiots, and saying their food looks like a dog's dinner, and things like that, very insulting things. Very angrish Irish or Scottish guy. I think he's Scottish. Yeah, that guy's funny too. I don't know how good of a cook he is. I don't really know much about his food. He just seems like he's really angry all the time. That's the main thing I know about him. But he's an integral part of the culinary world these days because of his TV shows, in which he's always yelling at people and screaming about stuff. Seems like a very Scottish thing, Like Mel Gibson is like that too, I think. And he's Australian, but I believe he's of Scottish ancestry. Yeah, he played Braveheart in that one movie. I think is a Scottish guy. And he's always ranting and raving about conspiracy theories and things like that too, so makes sense. But anyways, thinking of this new restaurant idea. Have you ever heard of these dog cafes? Where you go to a cafe and you can pet dogs. They also have like cat ones, and I've seen other animals, even like raccoons. I don't know, they probably have all kinds of animal cafes these days. But basically you go in the cafe and there's all these dogs roaming around. And, while you drink your coffee, you can pet the dogs and hang out with them and take pictures and stuff. So I thought, okay, let's do that. Okay, we'll have a dog cafe, right? But then we'll also have it connected to a Korean barbecue restaurant. So, sometimes, Asian people eat dogs, right? So the dog that looks most delicious to you in the petting area or the dog cafe. So you're petting that dog, right? And then you're like, this one looks delicious. So then you could, choose that dog to eat at the barbecue area. So that was my idea, combining dog cafe with Korean barbecue. I don't know, I think that could work. But first we have to get people in the West to eat more dog meat, because it doesn't really happen here. People are kind of against it, because they see them as companion animals and not food animals. So we'd have to change the culture around that too, which might take a while. But other than that major obstacle, I think this is a pretty decent idea. What do you guys think? I mean, people love dog cafes. They love Korean barbecue. And I don't see what could go wrong mixing the two. It's like a fusion type thing. A fusion restaurant. People like fusion stuff, right? Like East meets West type of thing. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing. You know, if it gets popular enough, it could even become like a chain of restaurants and cafes. And you know, you don't have to do both. If you just want to go to the dog cafe part, you could do that. Then if you're hungry, you could just move over to the barbecue after that. Or you could just do the barbecue, and if you don't want coffee and you don't feel like mingling with the dogs, you just do that part as well. But I also want it to be very integrated. I don't want it to be like two totally separate things. So I want it to feel like one restaurant or establishment. But, you know, it's your choice if you want to do both sections of it or not. Next, I want to talk about my former podcasting host. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I no longer have them up on like iTunes and stuff like that. I just have them up on YouTube now. My former podcasting host was this company called Podbean. And, you know, they would store all the podcast episodes and all the data and the episode description and all that. But I stopped using their service because I want to simplify and I no longer need it. Just want to have everything on YouTube. But yeah, so I wanted to cancel my subscription or my plan, because if I don't, it'll just automatically renew for another year. And I've been looking at this cancellation thing for a while now because I've been planning on this. And they won't let you cancel without immediately deleting all of the stuff they're hosting. They won't even let you keep your episodes up until the end of your plan. So I had a 1-year plan and I had already paid for it in full, right? But once you cancel, that's it. They don't keep it up for the rest of the time you have left. So even though I only have a few weeks left in my plan, they already removed all of it from their site. And I just wanted to call them out on this because I don't like this way of doing business. And I just want to say Podbean sucks. Fuck them. If you're ever going to do a podcast, don't use their service, because it sucks. And this is a bullshit policy they have. I mean, I don't understand why they can't just keep it up until the end of my plan. I already paid for it. It just seems like a scam to make you keep your subscription going in the hopes that maybe you'll forget, right? And then it just automatically renews for a whole year. Just automatically. They don't even give you a chance to think about it. If you want to just do it for a half year or a few months or something, it just automatically renews for 1 year. So yeah, this is a totally fucked up policy, and I've never seen anything like it. I don't know of any other service that's like this. If you already paid for it, they let you finish out your plan, right? They don't immediately cut it off at that point when you cancel it. I've never seen anything like this. This is the only company that does this that I've seen so far. So, just a hearty fuck you to Podbean. Fuck you guys. And fuck your service. Don't ever use them. They suck. Lastly, I wanted to talk about eating insects. I put up a screenshot of this Japanese show that I've seen on YouTube. It's this comedian, he's a pretty famous comedian from Japan called Egashira, and now he has a YouTube channel. But in one episode, they show you this vending machine in Japan where they sell bugs that you can eat. I've been seeing this idea pushed a lot more in the media recently, that humans should start eating insects as another form or another source of protein. Yeah, so far in this episode, I've covered other things that people don't typically eat in the West, like dogs. Are people in the West going to start eating insects more? Because they're really suggesting that we do it. It seems like it would be very sustainable and profitable. And if they get this idea planted in our heads earlier, then when they finally introduce it, it'll be less weird to us, right? because we'll see like celebrities doing it. We'll see articles about it and read them and be like, oh, okay, maybe I might try that. You know, they have to slowly introduce it to you. Kind of like the way they introduced the pandemic that happened recently. For years now, they've been suggesting that there could be a worldwide pandemic, so when it finally hit, it wasn't as weird of an idea, right? I mean, it was still shocking, but we were kind of primed for it. I feel like we're being primed to eat bugs and insects right now through the media. And why would they do this? Because raising insects is extremely cheap, and a few major corporations are in control of all the major food sources that we have access to. You know, they have a bunch of different small branches and things, but when it comes down to it, it's just a few big corporations that own everything. And I think that what they're planning on doing is eventually having us eat insects as a food source, and they're going to be the ones selling it to us. They're going to be very cheap to raise and process. It's going to be cheaper than like raising cows, right? Or other livestock. And they're going to be able to produce billions and billions of insects easily, right? Because they reproduce so quickly. And once they start farming these puppies and selling them to us as different foods, they're going to be able to make a shit ton of money off of that. And that's what's happening right now. If you've been paying attention at all. I even saw that there's like a restaurant in Europe somewhere, specialty restaurant where everything on the menu is made of various bugs. This is not a coincidence that that is happening in conjunction with this massive media push for us to eat bugs. And how do I feel about it? I guess I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I don't see what's wrong with it. I mean, it's just another protein source, right? My problem is that there's going to be just a few corporations in charge of all this, making all the profit off of it, which is inevitably what happens with anything that's sold on the market. Small companies might come up, but they eventually get bought out or outcompeted. And that's my main beef with this. I just resent the fact that that's what's going to happen. It happened with marijuana too, right? I think before it was legal, it was more of a business that anyone could make money off of, illegal marijuana dealers. But now that it's legal, you got these few huge corporations that have cornered the market, and they're making all the money off of it now. And that's what's going to happen with insects as a food source for humans. I don't really care what you think about eating insects. You're either going to eat them or you're not. Some people are more squeamish than others, and they just want to eat like, you know, really basic stuff like bread and cheese and mashed potatoes and chicken nuggets, things like that. More adventurous people will try it. It really doesn't matter, because once they start selling this stuff to us, it's going to become a huge multi-billion-dollar industry. And the few people who hold out, they're not going to matter anyway. And people in other parts of the world have been eating them for forever. So to them it'll be nothing, but they'll have to start buying this stuff from other people. The main corporations that own it all. You think they're going to find a way to make it illegal for people to raise their own insects to eat? I guess they don't do that with vegetables, right? I mean, you could raise your own tomatoes and eat those. But if they make it illegal for you to raise them so that they can make all the money, imagine what that would be like if you were in the news because you got busted for having an illegal cricket farm or something. Big bad guy with the cricket farm. The black market, you know, cricket dealer. And if you work at one of these factories, you might accidentally bring some crickets home and then they'll infest your house. And then you'll have to hear cricket sounds all the time in your house. You're like, where's that cricket? And you won't be able to find it, but you'll be able to hear it. I think I had that problem once, because I had some pet lizards. And I fed it crickets, and I think some of the crickets got loose, and they were in my house after that. I could hear them sometimes, but I wouldn't be able to find them. Yeah, that might happen though with crickets. They might infest the entire planet once these corporations start making a mass industry out of them. But that's okay. Cricket songs can be beautiful, or they can be annoying, depending on how you see it. Just get a pet lizard, or something that eats them, then you'll be fine. Anyway, that's enough ranting and raving for this episode. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.